I stand frozen in the center of the grand ballroom, my navy dress suddenly too tight across my chest. The champagne in my glass trembles like water in a cup during an earthquake. My 9-year-old son Liam clutches my free hand, his small fingers squeezing mine with increasing pressure as my sister Brielle's laughter echoes through the room's sound system. "Mom," Liam whispers, leaning against my side. "Why is everyone looking at us?" I can't answer him. My throat has closed, trapping words inside as surely as if someone had clamped their hand over my mouth. Across the room, my mother Nancy stands beside Brielle at the head table, her perfectly coiffed silver hair catching the light from the crystal chandeliers. The smug satisfaction on her face sends a cold wave through my stomach. Brielle taps her champagne flute with a silver spoon, the crystal ringing out to silence the murmurs rippling through the reception. "Let's toast my sister," she announces, her voice amplified by the microphone she insisted on holding throughout dinner. Claire Thompson, living proof that one mistake can derail your entire life. Awkward laughter ripples through the crowd. Some guests shift uncomfortably in their seats, while others lean forward, hungry for drama they hadn't expected with their wedding cake. "Mommy?" Liam tugs at my hand harder now. "Why are they being mean to us?" Before I can respond, my mother steps forward and places her hand on Brielle's shoulder. The diamond tennis bracelet on her wrist, her gift to the bride this morning, catches the light and sends prisms dancing across the white tablecloth. At least she brought her situation. "Dressed properly today," Nancy adds, her lips curved in what photographers would capture as a smile, but what I recognize as contempt. My face burns. The whispers grow louder around us as 200 of Atlanta's wealthiest citizens speculate about the disgrace standing in their midst. 9 years, and nothing has changed. 3 hours earlier, I'd stood in the bridal suite, carefully arranging Brielle's cathedral-length veil while she complained about the florist's failure to procure the exact shade of blush roses she demanded. "You're lucky you never had a real wedding," she'd said, examining her reflection. "So much stress." I'd kept pinning, my fingers steady despite the barb. The ruby earrings our grandmother left me, the only inheritance I received, caught the light as I moved, their deep red a stark contrast to my sister's diamonds. "Claire, couldn't you have found something less? Discount store?" My mother had swept into the room, her critical gaze landing on my dress purchased during my lunch hour with 2 months of careful saving. I'd straightened the programs I'd hand-lettered after discovering a typo in the printed versions. "Flower Girl's torn sash." Calmed the ring bearer's nerves with a story about brave knights. Handled a dozen crises no one would ever notice or acknowledge. "Brielle, honey, the photographer wants some shots before the ceremony." Nate ushered my sister toward the door. "You look absolute perfection." "I know," Brielle had replied, then turned to me with a dismissive glance. "Make sure those programs are arranged properly this time." Now, standing amid the wreckage of my dignity, I reach for my purse on the table beside me. Time to leave. Time to protect my son from the family that views him as nothing more than evidence of my failures. "Don't you dare make a scene," my mother hisses, suddenly beside me though I hadn't seen her approach. Her fingers dig into my forearm, manicured nails leaving half-moon indentations in my skin. From the microphone, Brielle continues, her words slurring slightly from too much champagne. "I mean, we all make choices in life, right? Some of us choose successful husbands and beautiful homes. Others choose." Her gaze lands directly on Liam, who shrinks against my side. The wedding photographer moves through the crowd, his camera capturing everything: the gleeful bride, the uncomfortable guests, the single mother and her fatherless son preparing for escape. Tomorrow, these photos will be evidence of a different sort, proof of what my family really thinks of us. My spine straightens. Not this time. I place my glass on the nearest table and guide Liam toward the exit. We'll slip away quietly. No scenes, no tears, just dignity where none has been offered. "Claire." Nancy's voice carries despite her attempt at a whisper. Heads turn. The sound of a chair scraping against marble stops me mid-step. Daniel Mercer, my new brother-in-law, rises slowly from his seat at the head table. The room falls silent as every eye shifts from my retreat to his unexpected movement. He reaches for the microphone, his fingers gently removing it from Brielle's hand. His expression remains calm, but something in his eyes of quiet determination makes even my mother take a step back. "I think that's quite enough," he says, his voice filling the silent room. I stare at him, recognition flickering at the edges of my memory. Something about the way he stands, shoulders squared against disapproval. I've seen him before Brielle brought him home, before the engagement, but I can't place when or where. The moment hangs suspended, perfect in its tension as 300 people hold their breath, waiting to see what happens next. Daniel's grip on the microphone tightens, his knuckles whitening against the silver handle. The room falls so silent I can hear the ice shifting in abandoned glasses. 200 pairs of eyes dart between us like startled birds, waiting. "Many of you know me as an investment banker," Daniel says, his voice steady despite the tension crackling through the ballroom. "What you don't know is that I met Claire Thompson long before Brielle introduced us at that Christmas party last year." My breath catches. "What?" Brielle lurches forward, diamond earrings swinging wildly as she grabs for the microphone. "That's impossible. You never met her." The words slur together, champagne and panic creating a dangerous cocktail. Danielle sidesteps her reaching hands with the practiced ease of someone who's grown accustomed to managing her moods. I remember exactly when and where. His gaze finds across the room, unwavering. 9 years ago. The floor beneath me seems to tilt. 9 years ago, when Liam was just a baby. When my family had freshly disowned me. When I was working 3 jobs and volunteering at the hospital on weekends because they offered free childcare during shifts. "Mom?" Liam tugs at my sleeve. "What's happening?" Before I can answer, the ballroom fades around me as Daniel continues speaking, his words painting images so vivid I'm transported back in time. Cold, fluorescent lights buzz overhead in the antiseptic hallway of Memorial Hospital's oncology ward. My volunteer uniform pale blue with a cheap plastic name badge hangs loose on my frame. I've lost weight again. Formula costs more than groceries for myself. Remember to walk, not run, sweetheart. I remind 3-year-old Liam as he toddles ahead of me, clutching a stack of crayon drawings. Room 412 comes into view, the same room we visited every Saturday for the past month. The young woman inside Julia can't be more than 19 or 20. Her once thick auburn hair has thinned to wisps against the white pillowcase. The chemotherapy isn't working anymore. Everyone knows it, but no one says it aloud. "Miss Julie!" Liam calls out, his small feet picking up speed despite my warning. Julia turns from the window, her gaunt face transforming with a smile that erases the shadows of her illness for one brilliant moment. "There's my favorite artist." She extends a thin arm toward him. I hang back, watching as Liam carefully spreads his drawings across her blanket-bright crayon worlds, where the sun always shines and stick figure people hold hands beneath impossible purple trees. "This one's you." Liam points to a figure with orange squiggles for hair. "And this is me. We're at the beach. Mom says beaches have lots of sand, but I never been to one." "Been to one," I correct automatically, then wince at how school teacherish I sound. Julia catches my eye and winks. It's our private joke, the overworked young single mother, who can't help teaching proper grammar even while exhausted. "These are magnificent," Julia tells Liam with the complete seriousness that he responds to so well. No baby talk, no condescension. "I'm putting this one right here." She tapes a drawing of a rocket ship to her forepole. "That way I can see it all night." I settle into the chair beside her bed, pulling my battered copy of poetry from my volunteer tote bag. Julia loves Robert Frost, though she's too weak to hold the book herself now. As I read, a shadow shifts in the doorway. I glance up briefly, noting a tall figure, a man watching us. Probably one of Julia's relatives, I think, before returning to the poem. Later, after Liam has fallen asleep in my lap and Julia has dozed off mid-stanza, I carefully pack our things. The container of homemade soup I brought sits on her bedside table. The nurses say she hasn't been eating, but sometimes she'll take a few spoonfuls when I bring food from home. Claire saved my sister's Tupperware containers. Daniel's voice pulls me back to the present moment, to the wedding reception frozen in surprise. She washed them and brought them back each week filled with new soup, despite working overtime to make rent, despite raising Liam alone. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. I spot my boss, Mr. Henderson, his expression shifting from confused to impressed. The Wilsons from my mother's garden club exchange glances. Brielle's sorority sisters whisper behind manicured hands. Julia lived 3 months longer than her doctors predicted. Daniel continues. In her final days, she told me those Saturday afternoons with Claire and Liam gave her something to look forward to when treatments couldn't offer hope. Nancy steps forward, her country club smile strained at the edges. Daniel, darling, this is all very touching, but perhaps we should cut the cake instead. Her fingers close around his forearm. He doesn't acknowledge her. Claire never knew Julia was my sister. I watched from the doorway week after week, never introducing myself properly because I didn't want to interrupt the only bright spots in Julia's final months. Liam's small hand finds mine again. I remember Miss Julie, he whispers. She let me use her special purple marker. Tears burn behind my eyes. I'd forgotten that detail, the expensive art marker Julia insisted Liam use for his masterpieces, when her hands became too shaky to draw herself. Daniel reaches up to his lapel, unpins his white rose boutonniere, and places it gently on the head table. The gesture carries a finality that silences even the whispers. I cannot marry into a family that treats its most courageous member this way, he announces, voice carrying to every corner of the ballroom. Brielle's perfect makeup streaks down her face in black rivulets. What are you doing? She hisses, reaching for him. Nancy lunges forward, abandoning pretense. You can't be serious. Do you know how much this wedding cost? Daniel steps back, putting distance between himself and both women. No amount of money justifies cruelty to a mother and child. A memory surfaces Daniel insisting on helping Liam build a model airplane at Thanksgiving dinner while everyone else ignored him. Daniel asking about my volunteer work at the engagement party when Brielle cut me off. Daniel watching me, always watching with that vaguely familiar expression I could never place. Now I know why. A tear slides down my cheek, but for the first time in 9 years, it's not from humiliation. Something warm and unfamiliar blooms in my chest, straightening my spine. Vindication. Champagne glasses crash to the marble floor as Daniel moves toward us through the startled crowd. Wedding guests scatter like pigeons from a park bench, their designer heels clicking against stone as they create a path between us. You're leaving me for her? Brielle's voice rises to a shriek that bounces off the crystal chandeliers. Her perfect makeup streaks down her cheeks, mascara rivers destroying the facade she spent 3 hours perfecting. My own sister? At my wedding? Mother rushes between tables, patting the shoulders of the city councilman's wife, murmuring to the hospital board chairman. Damage control in Chanel. I've seen this performance before at my high school graduation when I announced my state college scholarship instead of attending her alma mater. At Christmas dinner when I refused to pretend Liam was my nephew for the society photographer. Claire. I turned to find Mr. Harrington, my boss of 7 years, standing beside me. The same man who avoided eye contact at company functions when Mother cornered him to discuss my temporary position until I sorted out my situation. You never mentioned your volunteer work at Memorial. Something shifts in his expression, respect replacing tolerance. My wife was on that cancer floor 4 years ago. She still talks about the young mother and little boy who brought homemade soup every Tuesday. Before I can respond, Liam tugs at Daniel's sleeve. My son, who hides behind my legs when strangers approach, looks up at Daniel with clear eyes. Did my drawings really help your sister? His small voice carries in the sudden pocket of quiet surrounding us. Daniel kneels, eye level with my boy. His tuxedo worth more than 3 months of my rent crumples against the floor without a second thought. Your kindness gave her joy when nothing else could. Daniel's voice drops to a register meant only for Liam, but I catch every word. Those rocket ships you drew? She kept them taped to her ceiling so she could see them from her bed. My throat tightens. I recognized you instantly at the engagement dinner, Daniel says, rising to meet my eyes. Your hair was longer then. You wore it braided with a blue ribbon. The memory surfaces not of Daniel, but of Julia, the young woman with the same gray-blue eyes as the man standing before me now. The way she'd smile when Liam climbed onto her bed with his crayons and construction paper. How she'd asked about my classes, my dreams, when everyone else saw only my mistakes. I spent months watching how they treated you. Daniel continues, his voice steady. I kept hoping I was wrong, that perhaps they were different in private than they appeared in public. He glances toward Brielle, still wailing into my mother's shoulder. I should have said something sooner. I'm sorry. A strange calm settles over me, like the quiet after a thunderstorm. For 9 years, I've swallowed my words choked on theme in the name of family peace. The weight of those unspoken truths suddenly feels too heavy to carry another step. I turn toward my mother. 9 years. My voice doesn't shake. 9 years raising Liam while working full-time. 3 promotions. Nights spent studying for my CPA certification after he was asleep. Mornings at the hospital with patients everyone else had given up on. Nancy's eyes narrow into familiar slits of disapproval. Not once did you offer to babysit. Not once did you mention my name when your friends needed accounting help. You donated $10,000 to Brielle's honeymoon fund, but complained about contributing to Liam's school supplies. The whispers around us grow louder. Her carefully cultivated image cracks like thin ice beneath spring sun. Your shame was always misplaced. The words taste like freedom on my tongue. A movement near the entrance catches my eye. Mrs. Rivera, my 72-year-old neighbor who watches Liam after school, stands clutching her car keys. Behind her, Dr. Wilson from the oncology department offers a quiet nod. My boss steps forward. Claire's been our most requested accountant for the past 2 years, he announces, loud enough for the nearest tables to hear. The promotion we discussed last month comes with her own office, starting Monday. A distinguished couple approaches Daniel's parents, I realize with a jolt. Rather than the condemnation I expect, his mother takes my free hand. Julia told us about you, she says simply. We've been waiting to meet you properly. From across the room, Miss Peyton Liam's 3rd grade teacher raises her glass in a silent toast. I'd forgotten she'd be here. She's Daniel's second cousin. Daniel's voice breaks through my shock. Let me drive you and Liam home. Mom! Brielle lunges forward, diamond bracelet catching the light. Are you going to let this happen? She's ruining my day, again! Nancy's face hardens as she grabs my arm, nails digging into skin. This is all your fault, Claire. Always making trouble. The words should hurt. They've hurt for years. But something fundamental has shifted, like continental plates moving beneath my feet. 9 years of trying to earn scraps of approval. 9 years of protecting Liam from their disappointment, while hoping they might someday see his worth see mine. Nothing will ever change. Liam, honey, I kneel beside my son. Would you like to leave now? He nods, relief flooding his face. Can Mr. Daniel come too? Daniel offers his hand to my boy first, then extends his other to me. We walk toward the exit together, my navy dress no longer feeling too tight, my spine straightening with each step. Mrs. Rivera meets us at the door, pressing her car keys into Daniel's palm. I brought my Lincoln, more comfortable for the boy, she whispers, then adds, I always knew you deserved better, dear. Outside, the setting sun paints the sky in shades of amber and gold. Liam looks up at me, confusion giving way to a tentative hope. Does this mean we don't have to see Grandma anymore? The question pierces my heart and heals it simultaneously. I brush his hair from his forehead the same shade as mine, the same cowlick that never stays put. We'll surround ourselves with people who love us for who we are. The promise feels solid, like ground beneath my feet after years of quicksand. Daniel opens Mrs. Rivera's car door, his face softened by the golden hour light. I know a great ice cream place if you're interested. No pressure, just ice cream. Liam's face lights up, but he looks to me for permission. For the first time in 9 years, I make a choice untethered from my family's expectations. A choice based solely on what brings joy to the two people walking this path with me. Ice cream sounds perfect. A shaft of morning sunlight cuts across my modest apartment, illuminating dust motes dancing above unopened moving boxes. 2 months since the wedding, and I still haven't found the energy to fully unpack. Some wounds heal slower than others. I cradle my coffee muga gift from Daniel with courage, written in simple script, and watch the steam rise in the quiet morning. The red light on my answering machine blinks with 6 new messages. Nancy's voice from yesterday's call echoes in my memory. You're tearing this family apart, as if we'd ever truly been whole. The certified letter from their family attorney sits unopened on the counter. Emotional distress, according to the receptionist who signed for it. Beside it lies my phone displaying Brielle's latest social media post, a black and white photo captioned, "Healing from betrayal isn't linear." The Thompson family specialty inflicting pain, then claiming victimhood. My accounting certification hangs in a simple black frame on the wall, no longer hidden in a drawer. Across the room, Liam's bedroom door showcases his hospital junior volunteer certificate with a handwritten note, "Best storyteller we've ever had." Liam emerges, hair rumpled, shoulders straighter than they've been in years. His grades have improved steadily since we stopped attending family dinners, where Nancy dissected his every achievement for flaws. "Is Daniel coming today?" he asks, reaching for orange juice. "This afternoon. He's bringing materials for my business plan." I can't stop the small smile that forms. My phone chimes with a text from my boss, confirming my new office will be ready Monday at the corner suite with Claire Thompson, senior accountant, on the door. 3 major clients requested me specifically for their quarterly reviews, and next week I'm presenting at the regional accounting conference on work-life balance strategies. "Mom?" Liam says, studying a permission slip from school. "Mrs. Wilson says I'm doing great in therapy. She says He squints at the note, processing family dynamics in healthy ways. Last session, he finally spoke about Grandma's rejection. "She didn't see how special you are, Mom," he'd said with 9-year-old wisdom that left the therapist blinking back tears. His homework assignment sits on the refrigerator, my hero, with my picture carefully drawn below. The doorbell rings promptly at 2. Daniel arrives carrying blueprint tubes and fabric samples. "These are for your home office," he explains as Liam examines his basketball shoes. "I found an antique desk that matches your certification frame almost exactly." He unrolls the blueprints, revealing plans for the spare room in his house transformed into a professional office space with built-in shelving and natural lighting. "For Thompson Financial Solutions," he says, the name of my dream hanging between us. "Every CEO needs a proper desk." My seed money, carefully saved from each paycheck for 9 years, could make this possible sooner than I dared hope. "The business plan is nearly finished," Daniel continues. "Your experience managing client portfolios while juggling single motherhood is exactly the unique selling point small business owners will appreciate." His patience washes over me like a balm. No ultimatums, no timelines, just steady support without demands. He speaks of Julia sometimes, late at night when Liam is asleep, how his sister faced terminal illness with grace, how watching me mother Liam reminds him of her strength. These stories help me process my own wounds, showing me another way to view family beyond the toxic model I grew up with. The doorbell rings again, jarring in our peaceful afternoon. Through the peephole, I see Brielle, mascara smudged beneath red-rimmed eyes. "It's my sister," I say softly. Daniel immediately starts gathering his papers. "Would you like me to stay in the background?" I nod, grateful for his intuition. When I open the door, Brielle stumbles slightly, as if she's been leaning against it. The diamond earrings that were my grandmother's catch the light. "Claire," she says, voice cracking, "I'm sorry, but you have to understand what you've done to the family." Even her apologies begin with accusations. "You've ruined everything," she continues, tears streaming. "Mother's been dropped from the charity board, Daddy's business partners are asking questions, and I can't show my face at the club." I stand straight, shoulders back. "I'm sorry you're hurting, Brielle, but I won't blame for consequences that came from your choices." "But we're family," she whispers, reaching for Liam. Come give Auntie a hug. My son steps back, standing tall beside me. No thank you, he says politely, his voice small but firm. From the kitchen doorway, Daniel watches silently, ready to step forward but letting us handle this moment ourselves. For the first time in my life, I don't feel outnumbered by my family. I am finally on the stronger side. I straighten the framed accounting license on my office wall, Thompson Financial Solutions, the brass nameplate on my mahogany desk catching morning light. 6 months of freedom taste sweeter than I'd imagined. Through the half-open door, I glimpse Melissa at reception, fielding calls with the practiced efficiency I hired her for last month when client overflow demanded help. My fingers brush across Liam's latest therapy drawing displayed in a simple silver frame stick, figures holding hands. Himself, me, and Daniel beneath a rainbow. Next to it sits Daniel's photograph, his quiet smile reflecting the strength I've come to lean on. The emerald ring on my right hand, his grandmother scratches the light when I reach for my coffee. Not an engagement yet, but a promise neither of us takes lightly. Miss Thompson? Melissa appears at my door. There's a Pastor Williams here to see you. Says he's from Calvary Heights. Her expression remains neutral, but her eyebrow rises slightly. He's with an older woman. My stomach tightens. Calvary Heights, my mother's church for 30 years. The teacup rattles against its saucer before I steady my hand. Send them in, please. Pastor Williams enters, first silver-haired dignity in a charcoal suit, Bible clutched unnecessarily against his chest like a shield. Behind him, my mother glides in, Chanel suit impeccable as always, though the collar sits looser around her neck than 6 months ago. Deep lines bracket her mouth that makeup can't quite disguise. Claire, she says, voice warm but eyes calculating. You look healthy. Mom, Pastor Williams, please sit down. I gesture to the visitor chairs, not leather like in Dad's office, but comfortable enough to suggest success. The door opens again. Liam slips in from his after-school homework spot in the break room, immediately positioning himself beside my chair. His shoulders square beneath his school uniform, chin lifted. At 9, he stands guard like a miniature soldier. Hello, Liam, my mother says, smile tight. My goodness, you've grown. Liam nods once, not stepping forward for the hug she doesn't offer. Pastor Williams clears his throat. Claire, your mother has been attending our family reconciliation ministry. He places his Bible on his lap, opening to a marked page. The good book teaches us that family bonds are sacred. Nancy has expressed deep desire for healing between you. I poured tea from the carafe on my desk, handing cups to each visitor. That's thoughtful of you to come all this way, Pastor. May I ask what prompted this visit now? My voice remains steady, professional, the voice I use with difficult clients. My mother leans forward, pearls swinging. Family should stick together, Claire. What happened at the wedding was unfortunate. But surely we can move forward now. Her gaze flickers to Liam, then away. The holidays are coming. It would look better if... Look better? I repeat, cup paused midway to my lips. Pastor Williams intervenes. What Nancy means is that Christian forgiveness benefits everyone, and... He hesitates, glancing sideways at my mother. And? I prompt. My mother shifts, crossing her ankles. The country club membership committee is reviewing our standing after that scene. Several longtime clients have requested their files. Her voice drops. They've come to you, haven't they? Ah, there it is. We need to present a united family front again, she continues, regaining composure. Your father's business reputation. I see. I set my cup down with a gentle click. This isn't about reconciliation, it's about appearance. Liam's hand rests on my shoulder, warm and solid. I open my desk drawer and withdraw a leather-bound journal, 9 years of entries, documenting every cutting remark, every Christmas where Liam received less than his cousins, every family gathering where we were seated at the far end of the table. I kept a record. My finger traces the worn cover. Not out of bitterness, but because gaslighting was your specialty, Mom. Whenever I mentioned how you treated us, you claimed I was too sensitive or imagining things. Pastor Williams shifts uncomfortably. I'm willing to consider limited contact, I continue. But I have conditions. First, family therapy not with your pastor, but with a licensed therapist. Second, acknowledgement of specific incidents in this journal, not vague apologies. Third, respect for boundaries I set regarding Liam. My mother's face brightens. Of course, darling, whatever you need. The words come too quickly. Though therapy seems excessive, one simple forgiveness. Non-negotiable, I interrupt. Her lips thin. Fine. Though this office space is rather modest for someone with your clients, I could speak to your father about investing. No? You always did make things difficult. She sighs, glancing around. Daniel would likely propose properly if we reconciled. Men value family connections. A small laugh escapes me, surprising us both. Daniel loves me precisely because I finally love myself. He admires my boundaries, not my willingness to erase them. Pastor Williams coughs, clearly recognizing the conversation has veered far from his script. I stand, smoothing my skirt. Thank you for coming. I'll email the therapist recommendations tomorrow. My mother rises, collecting her purse. You're being stubborn, Claire. I'm being clear. I correct, walking them to the elevator with professional courtesy. Love is earned through actions, not demanded through obligation. She steps into the elevator, turning for one final volley. You're breaking your father's heart. The doors begin to close. Dad hasn't called once, I say quietly. You're here alone. Her eyes widen as the doors slide shut. Liam's small hand slips into mine as we return to my office. Was that okay, Mom? Yes, I whisper, my voice steady for perhaps the first time in 33 years. That was perfectly okay. Firelight dances across Julia's photograph as I adjust the silver frame on the mantel. Her smile, so much like Daniel's, seems to approve of the pine garland and twinkling lights adorning our first Christmas together. My fingers trace the edge of the frame, remembering the young woman whose kindness Liam and I never realized would change our lives. Mom, can we head to the hospital soon? I promised the kids we'd help them open presents before dinner. Liam slides into the living room in his new Christmas sweater, eyes bright with purpose. At 10, his volunteer badge hangs proudly beside mine, continuing the legacy that unknowingly connected us to Daniel years ago. After I check on dinner, I straighten the business award nestled between Family Photos Thompson Financial Solutions' first year exceeding projections by 40%. Beside it sits the foundation certificate. Mercer, Thompson, Healthcare Education Fund for Single Parents. Our way of turning past pain into future opportunity. The kitchen buzzes with activity. Mrs. Rivera slices the roast with practiced precision, her arthritis-curbed fingers still steady with the carving knife. In my country, the matriarch always serves the meat, she announces, swatting away Daniel's father when he offers to help. Daniel's mother arranges Liam's school essay on the refrigerator with a magnet. The title, Family is Who Loves You, Not Who Matches Your DNA, had earned him both an A and a parent-teacher conference where his teacher wept. Dad's not used to taking orders, Daniel whispers against my ear, arms wrapped around my waist. But he's never been happier about having a grandson. My boss no client Bill Henderson raises his wine glass. To the woman who made me look brilliant for promoting her. His wife nudges him. Finiand, who makes me look brilliant for hiring her firm now. Laughter ripples through our home as 14 people squeeze around our tables. Hospital volunteers, therapy group friends, neighbors' faces connected not by DNA, but by choice. Unopened Christmas cards addressed to Brielle and Nancy sit on my desk drawer. I wrote them weeks ago, not yet sent, but not forgotten, either door neither closed nor fully open. Present time, Daniel announces, kneeling before me with a small velvet box. The room falls silent. This was Julia's, he says, opening the box to reveal an emerald ring, size smaller than the one I glimpsed in photographs. She would have loved calling you her sister. His voice cracks slightly. I'd like the honor of calling you my wife. Liam pushes forward, thrusting a handmade card into my hands. Crayon letters spell out, Will you let Daniel be my dad for real? Tears not of shame or rejection, but of overwhelming joy spill down my cheeks as I nod, unable to speak as they both embrace me. Approval I never needed to earn. Later, when the plates are cleared and adoption papers for Liam to take the Mercer name sit signed on my desk, beside the half-finished manuscript, the family we choose, the doorbell rings. I've got it, I tell Daniel, who's teaching Liam his family's traditional Christmas card game. Snow swirls behind my mother as she stands on the porch, looking smaller than I remember. Gray has overtaken the carefully maintained silver of her hair. She clutches a small package wrapped in simple red paper. I was wrong, she says, no preamble, no manipulation lacing her words. I'm sorry. I stare at her, searching for the familiar calculation in her eyes, but finding only exhaustion and regret. My hand hesitates on the door, neither closing it nor opening it wider. Not yet. Just slightly ajar, like the possibility of forgiveness itself. I return to our celebration without mentioning Nancy's appearance, watching our gathered family with quiet wonder. Daniel's parents steal cards, while Mrs. Rivera teaches Liam Spanish Christmas carols. My therapy group friends argue good-naturedly about basketball with Bill. The old family album sits on the bookshelf, but beside it stands a new one already half filled with photographs of people who chose us and whom we chose in return. Sometimes the happiest endings come after the courage to walk away. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead, casting a harsh glow across the consultation room. I stare at the transplant coordinator, Dr. Walsh, as she slides the final consent form toward me. My hand trembles as I reach for the pen. As I mentioned, Miss Turner, there are significant risks, she says, her voice measured and clinical. Post-operative pain, infection, potential long-term complications, and there's always the small chance of rejection, even with a good match. I nod, scanning the form's dense paragraphs. 2 floors above us, Dad waits in pre-op, already gowned and prepped. The image of him, skin sallow against the white hospital sheets, flashes through my mind. He'd looked so small yesterday, nothing like the broad-shouldered man who once carried me on his shoulders at county fairs. I tap the pen against the paper, remembering Amanda's tearful excuses and Clay's carefully constructed medical disqualification. When it mattered most, they folded like cheap lawn chairs. Doctor. Walsh watches me, her expression neutral but her eyes kind. Miss Turner, I need to be absolutely clear. Once we begin, there's no going back. Are you absolutely certain about this? The question hangs in the air between us. Outside the window, a spring thunderstorm is building, dark clouds mirroring the weight in my chest. I take a deep breath and sign my name. He's my father, I say, my voice steadier than I expect. I'll do whatever it takes. 3 weeks ago, Mom called at 2 a.m. I'd been coding, lost in the familiar rhythm of problem solving, when her ringtone shattered my concentration. Kira? She said, her voice cracking. The doctor says your father won't survive another month without a transplant. His kidneys are failing faster than they expected. The family meeting 2 days later still burns in my memory. We gathered around the dining table where we'd celebrated countless Thanksgivings and Christmases, now transformed into a war room. I can't, Amanda said, dabbing at her eyes. We're trying for a baby. The hormones, the procedures, my doctor says the stress of surgery could ruin everything. Clay stared at his hands. My blood pressure's too high. They'd never clear me. I sat silent, watching the familiar scene unfold. They looked to me, as they always had. The family fixer, the responsible one, the one who never said no. At the present, I wake to the steady beep of monitors. My throat feels scraped raw from the breathing tube, and a dull throb pulses beneath the bandages on my left side. Through the haze of painkillers, I see Mom sitting beside my bed, her eyes red-rimmed. There she is, she whispers, taking my hand. Her smile wobbles. You've always been our rock, Kira. Always. I try to speak, but manage only a rasp. She holds a straw to my lips, and the cool water is sweeter than anything I've tasted. Later, they wheel me past Dad's room. He's sitting up, his color already better than it's been in months. When he sees me, tears well in his eyes. Sweetheart, he says, reaching for my hand as they pause my gurney. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. The surgeon stops by that evening, all smiles. Your father's numbers are improving already. Your kidney is performing beautifully. I nod, swallowing against the pain that spikes with each breath. He checks my chart, making notes. And how's your pain? On a scale of 1 to 10. 4. I lie. It's closer to 7. 2 days later, I move into my parents' guest room. The familiar blue walls and faded horse ribbons from my teenage years remain unchanged, like stepping back in time. I set up a makeshift office on the desk, my laptop and monitor looking out of place among the remnants of my youth. Now, don't you worry about your father, Mom says, fluffing pillows behind me. I'll handle his medications. You just focus on getting your strength back. But by evening, I'm the one checking Dad's temperature and helping him to the bathroom while Mom naps, exhausted from the hospital vigil. He leans heavily on my arm, wincing with each step. Shouldn't you be resting? He asks. I'm fine, I say automatically. My boss calls the next morning. Take all the time you need, he says, but his tone carries an unspoken deadline. The team can cover for now, but that Henderson project. I'll remote in starting from next week, I promise, calculating the unpaid leave days I have left. Denver and my apartment feel a world away. The phone rings again as I'm helping Dad with his lunch. The hospital billing department. I step into the hallway, pressing the phone to my ear. Miss Turner, we're calling about your portion of the transplant costs. The woman says, your insurance has processed their payment, but there's a significant remaining balance. I lean against the wall, sudden dizziness washing over me. As the woman details figures and payment plans, I stare at the family photos lining the hallway. Clay's graduation, Amanda's wedding, Dad beaming proudly in both. My software engineering degree ceremony is noticeably absent. I touch my side where the new scar throbs beneath my shirt, wondering what exactly I've given away. The morning sun filters through the guest room blinds as I adjust my position in bed, wincing at the pull of stitches along my side. 2 weeks since the surgery, and the pain remains a constant companion. I've learned to move deliberately, to breathe through the sharper moments. From down the hall, my father's voice drifts through the quiet house. He sounds stronger today, animated in a way I haven't heard since before his diagnosis. Curious, I ease myself from the bed and pad toward his study. My steps whisper soft against the carpet. We'll keep everything as we discussed before the surgery, Dad says, his tone businesslike. Clay gets the house and business shares. Amanda gets the trust fund. Kira doesn't need anything she's already established. I freeze outside the partially open door, my breath catching painfully in my throat. Frank, are you certain? A second voice, Mr. Prentice, Dad's attorney of 30 years. Given recent circumstances. Nothing's changed, Dad interrupts firmly. My daughter has a good job in Denver. Clay and Amanda need the security more than she does. The surgical incision along my side throbs violently as I stumble backward from the door. I press my palm against the wall to steady myself, a cold sweat breaking across my forehead. This wasn't some impulsive decision made under medication or stress. He had planned this before my surgery, before I gave him part of my body. I make it back to the guest room before the tears come. 3 nights later, Mom sets the dining table with the good china, declaring it time for a proper family dinner now that Dad feels up to joining us. I take my usual place across from Clay, Amanda to my right, while Dad presides at the head of the table. Every movement sends ripples of discomfort through my side, but I notice nobody asking if I need the cushioned chair they've provided for Dad. I've been putting my affairs in order, Dad announces after Mom serves the roast beef. He looks directly at Clay while cutting his meat with practiced precision. Son, I think it's time you step in at Turner Construction. You need some direction, and the business could use your energy. Clay, whose 3 previous business ventures have failed spectacularly, brightens immediately. Really? That's... Wow, Dad. Amanda reaches for the salt, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the light. John and I are thinking about another round of IVF treatments with the inheritance, she says casually. Now that we know the timing, we can plan better. The words land like blows. Inheritance. Timing. They've all discussed this, planned around it. What about my portion? The question escapes before I can stop it. The table falls uncomfortably silent, forks pausing midair. Dad dabs his mouth with his napkin before answering. You've got your career, Kira. You don't need our help like they do. I stare at him. This man whose life I saved without hesitation. I see. The following morning, a thick envelope arrives from the hospital billing department. Inside, I find itemized statements totaling $38,742.16, my portion of the transplant costs, not covered by insurance. I spread the papers across the guest bed, scanning the details. Dad's premium insurance through his company covered his expenses completely. My basic plan through work left significant gaps. My phone buzzes with a text from my boss. Need confirmation on your return date. Henderson project deadline approaching. Team stretched thin. I set the phone down and pull up my bank account on my laptop. The unpaid leave has already eaten through most of my savings. 3 more weeks of recovery minimum before I can travel back to Denver. If I still have an apartment to return to. Later, while searching for a spare charger in the home office, I find a folder labeled Kira College Fund. Inside, bank statements show the account emptied 7 years ago. With a transfer notation to C. Turner Auto Enterprises, Clay's first failed business. That night, unable to sleep, I dig through old emails. In a message dated 5 years ago, when Dad first mentioned his estate planning, I find it, "Don't worry about the details, Kira. Everything will be split equally among my children. That's always been my plan." As I sit alone in that guest room, staring at the medical bills piling up beside me, I wonder, should I confront my father immediately about his broken promise, or quietly consult a lawyer first? Direct confrontation might preserve our relationship, but legal preparation might protect what little I had left. What would you do when the person you sacrificed everything for betrays your trust? 2 days later, the kitchen timer dings as I pull Dad's medications from the cabinet. Clay appears at my elbow, his presence unexpected. "I got this, sis," he says, taking the pill organizer from my hands. "Been watching how you do it. Figure I should learn since I'll be the one taking care of Mom when Dad's gone." I step back, the incision on my side throbbing. Gone? His numbers are improving. Sure, but long-term? We both know this is borrowed time. Clay arranges the pills with exaggerated care, stealing glances at Mom to ensure she notices his performance. Later, Dad waves me into his study where spreadsheets cover his desk. "Kira, honey, I need you to sit with Clay and explain the family finances. You're so good with numbers, and he'll need to understand this stuff." "Why can't you show him?" I ask, shifting uncomfortably in the chair. Dad's eyes narrow slightly. "Because I'm recovering from major surgery." I swallow my retort. So am I. The front door slams, and Amanda bursts in, waving a grainy black and white image. "It worked, 8 weeks along." She thrusts the ultrasound photo at Dad. "The fertility doctor said the stress reduction after your transplant made all the difference. Your generosity gave us this miracle." Dad beams, clutching the image. No one mentions my generosity. That evening, I spot Dad's car keys on the hook by the door, the hook that's held them for 20 years. "Dad, you need me to drive you somewhere tomorrow?" "Oh, I signed the Buick over to Clay last week," he says without looking up from his newspaper. Makes things simpler. The revelation burns worse than my incision. Morning brings pain that radiates from my side through my entire body. The transplant coordinator warned about possible complications, but I didn't expect this constant grinding ache. The prescription bottle sits empty on my nightstand. Refills require a trip to the clinic I can't afford. My phone buzzes with an email from my landlord in Denver. "Per our conversation, your lease termination is confirmed effective immediately. Another monthly expense eliminated out of necessity." My apartment of 5 years, gone. I check my bank balance, $872.13. 3 weeks ago, it was close to $20,000. Between unpaid leave, medical costs, and helping with Dad's home care supplies, my savings have evaporated like morning dew. My phone rings my boss's number. "Kira, we've held your position as long as we could," he says, his voice strained with corporate politeness. "If you can't return by the end of next week, we'll need to offer your position to someone else." "I understand," I say. Though I don't. Not really. How could everything collapse so quickly? The next morning, my phone rings again. I answer mechanically, expecting more bad news. "Miss Turner? This is Nurse Marlene from the transplant center. Just checking in on you." Her voice is warm, genuine. "How's that incision healing?" I find myself telling her everything. The pain, the financial strain, the family dynamics. "Donors often face unexpected challenges," she says quietly. "Remember, your health matters too." For the first time in weeks, I feel genuinely seen. That afternoon, I gather my medical bills and knock on Dad's study door. He sits in his leather chair, looking healthier than I've seen him in months. My kidney is serving him well. Dad, I need to talk about these. I place the stack of papers on his desk. My insurance didn't cover everything. I'm looking at almost $40,000 in medical costs. He glances at the top bill, then pushes the stack aside. What do you expect me to do about it? Help me, like you're helping Clay and Amanda. His face hardens. I gave you life, and now you're keeping score when I need help? The words hit like a physical blow. And I gave you mine back. I just didn't realize it came with conditions. You've always been the successful one, he says, defensive now. Full scholarship, good job. You didn't need my help like they do. Understanding washes over me like cold water. You value me less because I'm independent. That's ridiculous. Is it? Clay fails, you rescue him. Amanda wants a baby, you fund treatments. I succeed, and you. What? Take it as permission to give everything to them? Dad's silence confirms what I never wanted to believe. I was never the golden child, I whisper. I was just the reliable one. That night, my phone rings again. Nurse Marlene. I spoke with some colleagues. There's a donor advocacy group that might be able to help with your situation. The next day, an email arrives from my former team lead. Heard what happened. Got a spare room in Denver if you need a place to land. These strangers show more concern than my blood relatives. I begin researching my legal options, discovering donor protection statutes I never knew existed. 3 days later, I call Mr. Prentice, the family's longtime lawyer. I need advice about my father's estate planning, I say carefully. There's a long pause. I've been meaning to call you, Kira. Some of these recent changes troubled me. Hope flickers, the first I've felt in weeks. The following morning, my phone buzzes with a text. You need to come to my office tomorrow. There's more you should know. I close my eyes, gathering strength for what comes next. The scar on my side pulls tight, a permanent reminder of what I've given and what I won't give up again. The next day, the oak-paneled office of Mr. Prentice smells of leather-bound books and decades of family secrets. Sunlight streams through Venetian blinds, casting striped shadows across his desk as he slides several documents toward me. Your father's been quite busy, he says, adjusting his reading glasses. These property transfers were backdated to appear as if they happened before your surgery. My stomach tightens. Backdated? That's potentially fraudulent, Mr. Prentice finishes, his voice carrying the weight of 40 years of legal practice. Frank transferred the vacation cabin to Clay in March, but the paperwork shows January. I pull a folder from my bag, every check I've written to my parents over the years, meticulously organized by date. College graduation, $5,000, toward their mortgage when Dad lost his job. 3 years ago, $8,000 for Mom's hip replacement when their insurance denied coverage. Last Christmas, $3,000 for repairs on the cabin that now belongs to Clay. Mr. Prentice examines my documentation, nodding slowly. There are precedents? He says, tapping his pen against a legal text. In Wisconsin, a donor sued her brother after he refused to cover her medical expenses, despite a verbal agreement. The court ruled in her favor. And in California, I add, sliding over a printout from my research. A donor was granted financial protection when the recipient attempted to sell jointly owned property immediately after the transplant. Mr. Prentice removes his glasses, his expression grave. I recommend filing for a temporary injunction. We need to freeze all asset transfers until we sort this out. The legal papers feel heavy in my hands as I sign them, but my heart is lighter than it's been in weeks. My phone rings that evening as I pack my belongings from the guest room. Amanda's name flashes on the screen. How could you do this to us? She sobs when I answer. Dad's devastated. You're destroying our family. I didn't destroy anything, Amanda, I say, continuing to fold my clothes with one hand. Dad made these choices. He gave you life. She wails, her voice rising to that familiar pitch that always worked on our parents. And I gave him back his. I counter. That doesn't mean I sign away my future. The line goes silent for a moment before she speaks again, her voice suddenly controlled. Clay says he'll contest your original donation consent if you don't drop this. He says you were coerced. A laugh escapes me, bitter and surprised. He's claiming I was coerced into donating? That's literally strengthening my case. Tell Clay thanks for the legal ammunition. I hang up as my phone chimes with a text from an unknown number. It's from Frank's transplant physician. Miss Turner, I've been made aware of the situation regarding your donation. I've filed an ethics complaint with the hospital board. This is unacceptable treatment of a living donor. As I finish packing, I consider Mr. Prentice's question from earlier. Do you want to fight for your full inheritance, or just recover your medical expenses? The question haunts me. Would seeking everything I was promised be justice, or would covering only my actual losses allow me to walk away with my dignity intact? My phone rings again the next morning. It's Diana from the National Living Donor Advocacy Network. We'd like to provide pro bono legal support, she says. Your case could help establish stronger protections for donors nationwide. I thank her, scribbling notes while balancing my coffee cup. The doorbell rings, and I open it to find Nurse Marlene standing on the porch, her scrubs wrinkled from a night shift. I've requested my days off to testify, she says without preamble. The hospital has records of our pre-donation counseling sessions where I specifically warned your father about his responsibility to support your recovery. My former boss calls that afternoon. Listen, Kira, I can't hold your position, but we have some consulting work you could do remotely during your recovery. Coding you can do from anywhere while this legal mess sorts itself out. For the first time in weeks, the crushing weight on my chest begins to lift. I'm not alone in this fight. The judge's decision arrives by courier the next day. Temporary injunction granted. All asset transfers frozen pending further investigation. My phone buzzes with a text from Amanda just after sunset. Did you know about Dad not covering your medical bills? I swear I didn't. I stare at her message, unsure what to believe. Before I can respond, another text arrives from Mr. Prentice. Frank's church friends are asking questions. Apparently, your side of the story is making the rounds. The final call of the day comes from a local reporter. Miss Turner, we're doing a story on organ donation ethics. Would you be willing to share your experience? I decline. Not ready for that level of exposure. But the request itself feels validating. As dusk settles over the neighborhood, Mr. Prentice confirms our court date for the preliminary hearing. I watch the house I grew up in from my rental car, seeing it clearly for the first time not as a home, but as property my father valued more than his promises to me. Tomorrow, we face a judge. Tomorrow, the family that took a piece of my body without honoring their word will answer for it. Tomorrow, I reclaim what's mine not just financially, but my sense of worth that they've chipped away at for years. I start the engine and drive away, the headlights illuminating the road ahead rather than the shadows behind. The next day, the fluorescent courthouse lights cast everyone in an unflattering pallor as Frank's lawyer approaches me in the hallway. His cologne arrives before he does, expensive and cloying. I press my back against the cool marble wall, my incision site throbbing beneath my navy blouse. Miss Turner, he says, voice pitched low. Your father wanted me to present an offer before we proceed. He extends a manila folder. Mr. Turner will cover all your medical expenses in exchange for signing a release of any inheritance claims. I take the folder but don't open it. He's using my surgery bills as leverage. The lawyer adjusts his tie. Consider the timing, Miss Turner. Your father's blood pressure has been concerning since this litigation began. I spot Clay hovering nearby, pretending to study a bulletin board. When our eyes meet, he approaches with calculated concern. You're killing Dad with all this, he whispers fiercely. The doctor says his kidney function is suffering from the stress. Interesting how his health becomes urgent when his money is threatened, I reply, surprised by my steady voice. Amanda appears from the restroom, eyes red-rimmed, cradling something against her chest. She unfolds a small square of paper and thrusts it toward me. Your niece? She says, pointing to the grainy ultrasound image. She'll never know her aunt if you do this. Is that what you want? To be a stranger to your own family? I stare at the fuzzy image. 6 months ago, this tactic would have worked. The old Kira would have folded her papers, apologized, and returned to being the reliable backbone everyone took for granted. Court will reconvene in 5 minutes, the bailiff calls from the doorway. Inside the courtroom, I sit alone at my table while my family clusters together across the aisle. The judge, a woman in her 60s with silver-streaked hair and reading glasses perched low on her nose, reviews documents before looking up. We'll hear from the petitioner, she says, nodding toward me. I rise, my knees surprisingly steady. Mr. Prentice stands beside me as I place my evidence on the projector. The first image appears on the screen, a spreadsheet documenting 20 years of financial contributions to my family. When Clay's auto shop failed in 2019, I provided $32,000 to prevent foreclosure on my parents' home, which had been used as collateral. I click to the next slide. When Amanda needed emergency surgery in 2021, I covered her deductible and lost wages. Frank shifts uncomfortably in his seat as I methodically present each instance where I'd served as the family safety net. My father won't meet my eyes. The next slides show my medical records, the surgical complications, the chronic pain, the medication regimen I'll likely need for years. This is my new reality. I explain, voice unwavering. A reality I accepted willingly because I believed family meant something. I click forward to emails from Frank, dated just before and after the surgery. Dad, I'm worried about taking so much unpaid leave. What about my apartment in Denver? His reply glows on the screen. Don't worry about money, sweetheart. Everything I have will be split equally among my children. We'll make sure you're taken care of. I turn to face him directly. I didn't donate my kidney to buy his love. I donated because I loved him unconditionally, something he never did for me. Ah. The courtroom falls silent. Even the court reporter pauses. Judge Winters removes her glasses. Mr. Turner, would you care to respond to your daughter's evidence? Frank stands slowly, looking suddenly frail in his too large suit. Your Honor, Kira has always been independent, strong, not like her siblings. So you're punishing her for her self-sufficiency? The judge asks. Not punishing, Frank protests. She's always been fine on her own. That's right, Clay interrupts, standing. And we made these arrangements about the will before her surgery anyway. Ask her lawyer, he knew. Mr. Prentice straightens. Your Honor, if Mr. Turner is claiming these arrangements predated the surgery, I have documentation proving otherwise. The will changes were made precisely 3 days after Miss Turner was confirmed as a match. The judge's expression hardens. The timing suggests the promise of inheritance was used to secure a potentially life-saving organ donation, followed by an immediate reversal once the donation was complete. She shuffles through papers, then looks up. The court finds troubling evidence of bad faith negotiation with someone who gave a literal piece of herself. The temporary freeze on all assets will continue, and I'm ordering a forensic accounting of the family estate dating back 5 years. For the first time, something flickers across Frank's face, not anger or resentment, but recognition. The smallest acknowledgement of what he's done. We will reconvene after the accounting is complete, Judge Winters concludes, banging her gavel. As we file out, Frank suddenly clutches his chest, his face ashen. Clay catches him before he falls. Amanda screams for help. Emergency personnel arrive with remarkable speed. As they wheel Frank toward the exit, Amanda grabs my arm. Please, she begs, tears streaming down her face. Come to the hospital. He needs you. I gently remove her hand from my arm. I already gave him what he needed to survive. The words taste strange in my mouth, not bitter as I expected, but oddly clean, like fresh water. I watch as they rush Frank through the doors, oxygen mask covering his face. Clay follows, shooting a venomous glance over his shoulder. I turn away and walk in the opposite direction, toward the parking lot. The autumn air fills my lungs as I step outside. For the first time in months, I breathe without the weight of obligation crushing my chest. I don't look back at the hospital in the distance. I've spent enough of my life looking back. Morning light streams through my Denver apartment windows, catching dust motes that dance like tiny companions. I pause at my desk, fingers hovering over the keyboard as I finish an email to a transplant support coordinator, 6 months since the court battle, and my phone no longer sends me into a panic when it rings. I glance at my wall calendar, adorned with colorful markers: therapy on Tuesdays, donor support group on Thursdays, coffee with Marlene when she visits from Springfield. The neat rows of appointments feel like stepping stones across a river I've already crossed. My hand drifts to my side, tracing the surgical scar through my cotton shirt. It's faded now, a silver line instead of an angry red slash, just like my sense of obligation to the Turners. The job at the transplant advocacy nonprofit pays less than software engineering, but every time I help revise a consent form or speak with a potential donor, something broken inside me mends a little more. My phone lights up, vibrating against the desk, Unknown number, 2:14 a.m. displayed on the caller's end. My breath catches for just a moment before I answer. Hello? Is this Kira Turner? The woman's voice trembles. The donor advocate hotline gave me your number. My brother needs a kidney, and my parents are pressuring me to donate. But they've already cut me out of their will, and I don't know what to do. And take a breath, I say, keeping my voice gentle. I understand exactly what you're going through. I listen as her story tumbles out a mirror of my past, different only in the details. I can help you navigate this. I tell her when she finally pauses. But remember, I can support you without diminishing myself. That's something I had to learn the hard way. A shaky exhale filters through the phone. You're the first person who's actually listened instead of telling me what I should do. That's what chosen family does, I reply. Later that evening, my apartment fills with laughter. Nurse Marlene arranges takeout containers on my coffee table, while Javier, my lawyer friend, argues good-naturedly with Delia from the support group about baseball. Marlene raises her glass. To chosen family, the ones who see our scars and still think we're whole. We clink glasses as Javier presents me with a wrapped package. Inside is a framed copy of the donor protection legislation I helped draft testimony for. My fingertips trace the embossed legal text, remembering the committee hearing where I'd spoken my truth. This is just the beginning, Delia says, squeezing my shoulder. The next morning, I open an email containing the final settlement notification. Medical bills covered, plus 1/3 of my father's estate, exactly what the will promised before his betrayal. Beside it sits another email. Acceptance into a graduate program in medical ethics. A letter arrived yesterday from a distant cousin who'd watched the family drama unfold. Your stand changed things for all of us, she wrote. No one talks about family obligation the same way anymore. I take the only photo of my father I've kept him, teaching me to fish when I was 10, before disappointment had calcified into expectation, and place it on my bookshelf. Not front and center, just one memory among many. As I placed that single photo on my shelf, I wondered if real family is defined by blood or by actions. Should I leave the door open for reconciliation someday, or was closing that chapter completely the healthiest path forward? What would you do when healing yourself means walking away from those who should have protected you?